Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another episode of Salt Ships and Scuttlebutt, a World of Warships podcast, hosted by yours truly, Captain Greene 123, and
Got the right side of the screen, Lord, Sea Lord Mountbatten of the YouTube verse.
how we doing, man?
I am doing pretty good. I've signed my life away. I am now almost $250,000 in debt, living the American dream. So,
What did you buy another Chevy?
no, not this
Oh,
time. Bought a house.
oh,
Closed on the house
even
this week.
that's more reliable than a Chevy.
Well, the dryer doesn't work right now, so that's interesting.
The
Um,
demon followed you, dude. You got to get a priest or something over there, man.
Well, no,
Something that's
apparently
just
it's something about like the dryers have this, and I know this is exactly what the audience wants to hear. The newer dryers have like a different plug, and like apparently like I don't know like the electricians or whatever haven't caught up to like getting this new standard plug in, and it causes the breakers to just not work and yada yada. So I gotta make some phone calls tomorrow and see if I can get that fixed out. But yeah, no, that's why I've been this past week. It's probably there'll be no live streams or anything if anyone's wondering, because it's a lot of paperwork and a lot of. This is so really funny. I was 8 cents off of the down payment. The bank screwed up the cashier's check for 8 cents. So we're there in the title office doing all the paperwork and stuff. Like, okay, so your down payment is this. So you know you have your cashier's check. Yeah, here it is. Okay, very good. So let's make sure this is da 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 da. And it was supposed to be 58 cents, but the bank only did it for 50 cents. So she's like,
so
oh
you're homeless.
no. So so funny story. Uh, the notary lady, she was like, well, that's only 8 cents. That's really not that big of a deal. Let's see if the builders will, just say whatever. And I was like, oh, okay, well, whatever. And so someone went out, called them, came back like, no, they want the correct one for like record keeping or whatever, because it's an FHA loan, so the government's like heavily involved in it. So apparently, like it needs to be like to exact.
No,
So I'm like,
I
well,
bet you. Do you guys have Italian construction companies down there too, or because up here it's all like Dresco Construction or something, or Gallipoli Construction. Like they're all Italian up here.
no, so this is like it's a Louisiana-based builder. It's a local builder, so
Oh,
they'd be
I was just
like French,
I
if anything.
I was just picturing some Italian in one of those like mobile construction trailers that are basically just 60% of a mobile home, and it's just that fucking piece of shit 8 cents short. I'm not taking it anymore. Like he's just like there's just some Italian guy like on my dead mama's bubble taking it. I don't know. I've really only watched Sopranos, so that's all my.
Yeah, well, I mean, dude, it felt like that because I'm like, I've got the quarter in my car. I can give it to y'all. I can go get
We
the
can
quarter
deal
out.
with this right now.
Yeah, I'll go get the quarter out of the little cubby in my truck, and you can keep the change. If I can just get the keys to this house that I just handed you, several $1,000 for.
$250,000 for.
Yeah, it's a
You're like,
five-figure down payment,
you're
and
like, no, sir, it
like
has to be on the check.
and like 8 cents was what held us up. So I had to run to another branch of my bank, because I'm moving out from where I'm currently living, and I have to go burn like $15 in gas to go get an 8 cents added into my cashier's check. So that was beautiful. It added like another hour and a half
And
onto
they
the whole ordeal.
and they say the banking system doesn't work for the people. I don't know how they could say that.
Dude, even like the people at the bank were like, really, they wouldn't just like you couldn't just give them a quarter. I'm like, no, they wanted another
Nope.
cashier's check. Oh, it was beautiful. It was beautiful. And what's even funnier is they sent a lady to go give him the keys and pick up the cashier's check. It's like, wait a second, all this over 8 cents. You had one of your employees burn like 2 gallons of gas to come get the check from me and give me the keys instead of just like taking the quarter from my ashtray.
There
So,
was there was I have a very similar story. There was so the company that I work for services mail machines, mail sorting, mail cutting, mail feeding. There's a lot of it's another industry that isn't like so Wow, I just put Discord on my main screen. I have a massive stain here. People are gonna think I'm homeless. Anyways, it's a massive industry. My dad works in wastewater management. I bet you that's an industry you don't think about. He makes a shitload of money in that industry. So even though a lot of people are moving towards electronic notifications and stuff, the mail industry is still very large. So somebody had a sprinkler hose or a sprinkler pipe burst over a multi-million-dollar machine, soaked it completely, and they called us and they're like, okay, here's the situation. Here's the security cam footage. And we're like, great, that's horrible. What do you want to do moving forward? And they were like, oh, we really prefer it if we had a technician come out and check this machine. And my man and the company's like, okay, why? It's soaked. Well, we just like to see if the machine is potentially salvageable as a cost-cutting measure. Okay. So a tech had to go 3.5 hours out to this site. And he pulled in and he's like, when did this happen? They're like, oh, 2 days ago. He's like, there's still water in the machine. You guys didn't clean it out. And they're like, no, we did. It's just there's water trickling through. He's like, great. This machine's a write-off. Have a nice day. I'm billing you for an hour. Bye. And then he drives away. That's just what I pictured, where it's that kind of like, you just paid so much extra money to confirm something that was basically over the finish line already. It doesn't make any sense to me. But I am a small cog in the machine. I also had a great few weeks. I celebrated my birthday on the 27th.
Happy
I am
birthday.
now 27 years old. So, what was that? What do I look older?
I don't know what you're talking about.
You fat bitch. You're gonna finish that sentence right now.
No, I thought you were like a year or two older than me. But
How old are you?
As of tomorrow, I'll be 29.
Oh, happy birthday.
Yeah, look at that. 3 days apart.
Here we go. Yeah. So and for Father's Day, I was going to buy my father. Are you familiar with the Savannah Bananas?
Yeah, I think we talked about this last time, didn't we?
I think so. Yeah, they were coming to Fenway, and they were $900 tickets, and I was like, respectfully, this is not fucking happening. So, I went in true New England shitbag form, and I went and I bought the cheapest Red Sox tickets I could get. And in true Boston sports form, it ended up being the greatest afternoon of my life. I worked third shift, which means I worked the day before, and I did not fall asleep until 11, and I woke up at 1. So I was going off of 3 hours of sleep. I got in the car, and my dad's like, yeah, let's go Red Sox. And I'm like, let me dump a coffee in me, and we'll see where I'm at. But we ended up parking right next to Fenway, which was great. And we got in, and my dad has always been a very serious person in my life, especially when I've been growing up. He's always very like, you're going to do this. This is what's right. You're not going to do that because that's not right. And, he's a very, I don't want to say he's a very moral person, but he's a very like respectful person. Now that all of the kids out of the house, I'm seeing college Papa Greene, which is great because at the St. Patrick's Day parade this year, my dad got like shithoused off of Irish coffee, and it was the first time I think in my whole life I've seen him drunk. And we got to the stadium, and my dad's like, "Have you ever 9x9?" And I'm like, "Yes." And he's like, "It's happening." And so for those of you who don't know, the 9x9 is you have to drink 9 beers, have 9 hot dogs for each of the 9 innings in the baseball game. So my dad and I, being both heavy-set gentlemen who are more than capable of handling our alcohol, proceeded to have a 13 by like 15. We did a lot of hot dogs. We
Dude,
didn't
that's
even
so
make
much money. That's so
we
much
didn't even
money.
No, okay, so it was and it wasn't. It was $6 dog day.
Oh, okay, okay.
So and the beers were I think like 8 because we were just like slamming the Scudsy Sam Adams that they had. But it was great. Like we showed up there, and like I said, my dad, he's always been, I'm not going to drink in front of my kids. I'm not going to do all this because I don't want my kids to generate that picture of me. And then 2025 Fenway Papa Greene, we don't even make it into the stadium, and he's like, I need a fucking beer. So yeah, it was great. I think we knocked back like I think it was like 3 hot dogs each before they even threw the first pitch. And we were just it was an absolute great day. We ended up getting so out, they call it the balcony, out over by the outfield over by the pole, Pesky's pole. There's sitting area, but there's also a decent standing area. My dad and I, being large men with a lot of beer and hot dogs, we just ended up sitting in the standing area. We just stood over at the standing area because they had like tables and stuff, and we ended up standing there for the whole game, which was great. And my dad the whole time he's like, "What the fuck did we buy seating tickets when we could just get these?" And then at the end of the game, we went down to where our seats were, and we sat down. And he just looked over at me, and he's like, "Yeah, we made the right call. This is terrible. I forgot how dog shit Fenway seats are." I'm like, "Yep, all right." So there we go. So we have another game in the books here. We're gonna do that. So that was great. I don't even like baseball, but the experience was awesome. So, but yeah, I was absolutely junk yesterday. So that was good.
That's great. It's good to hear you had a good time.
Yeah,
We don't have
it's
any. We don't have an MLB team here, so we're just. I either have to go to. Louisiana doesn't have an MLB team.
no, yeah. I was gonna say I don't think you guys.
Nope.
You have the Nolans Saints.
We have the Saints, but that's
I think,
football.
yeah,
Then
but
we
I
have
think that's it.
LSU. LSU's got a pretty good baseball team, but like we have a minor league team. We have the Zephyrs, but that's it.
Those are still good.
Yeah, I mean,
And those concessions are usually a lot cheaper. So.
yeah. So like, my professional baseball experience has been like 1 or 2 Zephyrs games and like 3 Houston Astros games.
Yeah.
So that's it.
I've pretty consistently done 1 to 2 Red Sox games a year. It's a rite of passage up here in New England. Like I said, I don't even like baseball, but it just, I'll just sit there and I'll be like, it's time. I have to go.
I,
I have to go make the pilgrimage.
it's calling my name.
It's calling my name. I must go. It's not like hockey. Again, you could probably tell I really enjoy hockey.
Yeah,
And I
I
do a
think
lot
most
of
have caught
hockey
on to that.
games. But like every so often I'll do a Celtics game. I'll do a Revolution game just because those seats are basically free. Revolution's our soccer team, in case you didn't know. Moving on. We also have a rugby team over in Quincy, and they just three-peated on the national championship. And those games are also insane. Have you ever watched rugby?
I've watched rugby. Yes.
Okay, so the atmosphere at a rugby game, when you're at a Houston Astros game and it's like the middle of the 7th, and you get that, dad of 6 lifting his shirt up on the Jumbotron. It's like that
The entire
24/7 at
time.
rugby games. It's like that. Like there was one of the New England players who came out in like a Speedo. And he just, again,
Fascinating.
fat gut, just absolute dab on. He was just like, and I'm like, yeah. So it was the energy at rugby games are always great. But obviously, I can't wait for fucking hockey season to start. But one more hockey thing, and then we'll talk about World of Warships. Do you do any sports gambling?
No, I have no money for that.
So I got kind of buzzed last weekend, and I bought I put two $10 bets down. With the finale of the NHL season, I have a little bit of a hockey addiction that I need to deal with. So I put $10 down. It was the Indonesian Finalist Cup. And I bet, I think it was the Philippines versus, I think like Laos. And I put $10 down on the Philippines, and I put $10 down on a random player on the Philippines, and I won $250.
What, really?
I'm done. and the gambling app I was using was Sportsbook or
Sports bet or
yeah, like MGM, whatever.
Yeah.
They were like, "Hey man, let it ride." I'm like, "Fuck no, dude." I just put 10 down on a country that a lot of people can't even point to, and I won. I'm done.
Random
Like
Laotian player.
I am so far ahead. I'm good. I don't need this. Like I'm like retiring at the peak of my career right now, and that's fine with me. And they're like, oh, sure. I'm like, yeah. Give me my $250. I'm getting takeout. It's gonna be a good day. So that was awesome. Yeah, I know. It was at like fucking 3 a.m. too, and it was last Sunday, and I just ended up like, yeah, my roommate is asleep right now because I work third shift, so this is like noon for me now, and I was places I was just degenerately gambling at 3 a.m, and I almost cheered when I won, but I didn't. So
it'd been crazy if for some return you would like $300,000 or something.
Oh yeah, he would get woken up. I didn't. Like that's life changing right there. That is getting woken up. And I don't care. I have no compassion. I would expect the exact same from him.
Well,
I'm not expecting I come down and say, oh, how you doing, Mike? Oh, I won $300,000 today. No, I'm expecting him to go ballistic the minute he finds out, and I would do the exact same. All right. So, anyways, World of Warships.
It's only 20 minutes in. We're doing good.
Yeah, I was gonna say that's pretty good for us, actually. So, something that came up a lot that I kind of wanted to talk about is the dispersion and a lot of the terms that we were using a few weeks ago, because we had a lot of people who, well, actually, what happened with me is I have a few friends who listen to the podcast who do not play World of Warships. They listen because they like to support, and a lot of them also work overnights and they want something to listen to. So, doing numbers in that market. But he didn't understand any of the terminology that we were talking about when it mainly was pertaining to stuff like dispersion, sigma, krupp, stuff like that. And I kind of had a little bit of a coming to Jesus moment, because I was sitting there and I was like, okay, it's kind of understandable that he doesn't understand this. But at the exact opposite end of the spectrum, these are very, very, I would say, important game mechanics that aren't explained very well.
Yeah.
And a lot of people kind of are like, wargaming doesn't do a good job explaining. No. It's the system is ridiculously complex. So, and that's not directly a wargaming problem, because I don't think that it was made complex maliciously. I genuinely believe that it was made complex to balance player kind of survivability versus realism. So they wanted to balance arcade game mechanics and realistic damage. So that's also something I want to clear off, because a lot of times I've had these discussions and people are like, why they hate the player base. It's like, no, it's they tried to they shot at the moon and they ended up, I don't know, on Venus. They're beyond the moon. I think that the damage system is it fits exactly what they wanted to accomplish. I think that it accomplishes exactly what they wanted it to accomplish. I just don't think that it ended up among the stars. But not a lot of things in game development end up among the stars. For instance, War Thunder. For those of you who don't know, the War Thunder patch came out with the Yamato and the Iowa fighting Bismarcks and Romas. That's great. Vanguard's in there too. I played one game of that VR and watched a Vanguard instantly explode, so that was good.
Dude, yeah.
Good to
I got
see.
Bismarck, and
It's not fun if you run a Vanguard. British bros be losing, I guess.
Dude, no, the Yami is actually like trash.
Yeah, it is.
It has the cheek still,
Yep.
And that's where they store all the ammo, so you can just bulk up to it and just go boop, and it's gone.
I saw an Arkansas delete Yamato, and that was so fucking funny in my eyes because it immediately translates to ships where it's like a tier 4 just one-shotting a tier 10. But with their recent update, I think that just to kind of draw parallels with the ships that they've introduced, I think that they very much shot for the stars and ended up on Venus as well, because there's a lot of exchanges where it's just not good. It's not a unique exchange. It's not a beneficial exchange. There's always somebody there's always going to be a loser. And there's also a compelling point where you're sitting there and you're like, okay, but somebody has to win, somebody has to lose, which is very true. And I think that is also a core part of a gameplay loop. But there's a difference between losing and getting diddied, and that's I feel like, unfortunately, with War Thunder, rather, with this naval update, a lot of people just getting diddied. And so I just kind of wanted to bring that up to kind of highlight how I like I said, I don't think that this is a I don't think that this is anything malicious in any way, shape, or form for World of Warships. And just something to maybe give that a little bit of credence is how critical we've been of World of Warships and wargaming in the past. But yeah, I just kind of wanted to really put that out there and emphasize that.
Because it's like the range they have you engaging at in War Thunder Naval now, it's way close enough to where once you like get your lead and your distance lined up on the target, if you know what part of the ship to hit and your guns are big enough, you can just one tap just about anything. It sucks to be like the American standard battleships now in top BR, because they're just getting bullied by the Bismarcks and the Iowas and the Yamis, because their guns are big enough to just go right all through that fat armor and one tap their magazines now, and they ain't got nowhere else to go because they're in that bracket. So very much so the wargaming system, I've always called it deceptively simple, because on the surface I have a health bar, I get shot, health bar go down, okay.
Hit, lose health.
It's
bad. But I think that it's. I'm sorry, I kind of cut you off there.
No, I was done with my thought.
Oh well, I think that it's good that wargaming has taken such a complex system and has been able to deliver it and translate all of those different calculations that take place into get hit, lose hit point, get sad, press R when fire comes, because at the end of the day, it's, I don't know. That's kind of just how I feel. It's a complex system that has been delivered very well.
Yeah, it's a tough thing to simulate too, because it's not like a plane where
Yeah,
there's 1 to 2 guys usually in like a fighter plane, right? That's not hard to simulate on a computer. Even like a tank, 3 to 5 to 6, however many people they cram in those things. Not overly hard to simulate, but a ship when you have literally thousands of people on it, how do you translate that into a system where you got one guy sitting behind a computer controlling all that?
yeah.
So
So
it's yeah,
yeah, I think that they really, really, really hit the nail on the head with it. However, like I've said, there's a lot of layers there not that doesn't always get unpacked well. And I kind of wanted to start chipping away at that kind of bi-weekly here. Um, so that's kind of what this first segment is. And we're going to go over dispersion once again. So with dispersion, just to kind of highlight it here, um, it's basically the simple way to look at it is deviation. So I put my cursor here, I click here, shell, deviation and dispersion is what puts that shell above, below, left, or right of that marker, right where your crosshair is. So that's why we talk about dispersion a lot. The other thing that we talk about is sigma. Sigma is basically a multiplier that kind of is applied to your dispersion to be like, how close are you
your center
landing to
point
that
of aim.
center point?
Yeah,
So that's why, because there's a lot of people who are like, dude, I have 1.7 sigma. That's only 0.4 off from, 2.1. Like, why are my guns so different? That's it's a multiplicative effect. And B, with the scale being what it is, even a 0.5% increase or decrease can change the outcome substantially.
mm-hmm.
Um, so yeah, there's some ships, a lot of ships have a circle for their dispersion, so they'll have roughly equal lateral and vertical dispersion. There are some ships though that have reduced dispersion on one of the two axis CCCCCs. And the first one that comes to mind in my head is Slava. So Slava has slashed vertical dispersion, but it can kind of stretch out a little bit more on the horizontal dispersion aspect
It's an
of.
oval for those of you with trying to picture this in your head. It's an oval instead of a circle.
Yeah, it's a lot more ovacular. That's a
Ovacular.
word than circular. Um, so it's better for the Slav is really good at dumping shells at water lines. It will hit to the left and to the right of your cursor. So if you put that right on the water line, it's pretty reliable to get a good amount of citadels, get a good amount of pens. And that's just kind of how that dispersion works. And like I said, Sigma is a good indicator of your dispersion. So if you, I don't know, are a Bayern with like 1.5 Sigma, you're going to have a lot of shells that go everywhere except where you're aiming, because that circle's that larger and your shells have a tendency to go
Not there.
not where you're aiming. And that's why a lot, will often freak out if a battleship has 2.1, because that's like super
That's
cruiser
big.
dispersion. And that means that more often than not, your shells are going right where you put them, or well, rather right where you aim them to be. And that allows somebody who is very, very good at aiming to take advantage of ships like that.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people will, a lot of people are like, oh, it's RNG, it's RNG, that's why I missed. It's RNG, that's why I missed. Which it certainly is RNG, but a lot of the times it's not RNG is not impacting as much as um players think
Math
it is.
as math
Yeah,
is.
yeah.
Because
So
like the Yami has really good Sigma for a battleship, but doesn't have the best dispersion.
yeah,
So like you can,
get
I
those
mean,
laser
yeah,
shells.
you can RNG it and get those great dispersion salvos, or you can get, well, as many of you know, the great Yami dispersion.
It's
Sometimes,
the sake gunner
yeah.
dispersion. Um, so that's kind of something to really keep in your head, moving forward. If you like anything, if you establish a good core set of skills in World of Warships and you repeatedly hone those, you are going to see a marked improvement. It's not Vlad the Impaler sitting in Belarus seeing, yes, John Doe, the plumber, is online. I'm going to make sure he has a 38% win rate by fucking with him. No, no, no. You can do well in this game. You need to establish a good skill set. And like I've also said a lot, the first step in establishing a good skill set is usually realizing that you're shit. You're not as good as you think you are. Because that's the first step on the road to self-improvement.
There's
I
a
mean, an alcoholic when they're going to get help, they don't just show up at Alcoholics Anonymous spontaneously or wherever they go. They first have that thought of, okay, this is a
have a
problem.
problem.
I need help. And then they go and they get the help. Now, I'm not saying World of Warships players are alcoholics. I'm
Some
just
of them are.
saying that, well, I am. But I'm just saying that the first step in getting help and is realizing that you need the help in the first place, realizing that you have a problem.
There's a great series of videos that you can watch on Wargaming's own channel, the World of
Dude,
Warships
honest,
channel.
yeah.
It's the How It Works series. The videos are like 5 minutes long. Super Gen Z friendly. Just like
Yes.
put those on as a playlist when you're driving to work or something after you watch my video.
I
Um,
was just put them in the playlist after me.
yeah, after me. And it's a great simple explanation of how each mechanic works. And if you watch those videos, you will have a leg up on probably like 60% of the players you run across in random
Yeah,
battles because
because
they have no idea how it works.
there's enough people in this game that go, I have a Yamato or I have an Iowa, I should
I was saying
destroyer.
it's more of the I have an Iowa.
Why didn't I no, there's a lot of Yamato people, but I have an
That's true.
Iowa. Why didn't I one shot the destroyer? Don't they know how big a 16-inch shell is? It's literally
Dude,
16 inches.
what is so funny is that like that's oddly enough what like War Thunder Naval is kind of like because it's literally just like you have big shell,
Big boom.
kill, big boom, dead enemy ship.
Yeah.
Like that. That's oddly enough that's what War Thunder high tier naval is like. So that's kind of funny.
But
But
yeah, in
yeah,
World of Warships, that's not the case.
no.
Is over penetration. You have stuff like that. So, and those learning about mechanics like that can really improve
Yeah.
uh, your abilities. So, like for instance, there's been a few times where I get caught out in a battleship. I'm getting my guns around, and I get my guns on target just as the destroyer is broadside to me. I will always hold my shots until the destroyer is running away. And the reason why I do that is because an enemy that you're shooting at like this has a much narrower cross section. So that's less area, a very small amount of area that your shells will hit and potentially do actual damage on. Um, but when they're kind of in that turn and, the angle will shift from this to kind of like this. That's terrible. That was, hold on. Do I have a boat? I have a boat. Hold on.
He has a boat, ladies and gentlemen.
Getting
You
grass
can do
modeled
this
up in
with
here, dude.
light cruisers too. If you hate overpinning light cruisers, you can also take advantage of this when they're running away or when they're running towards you. When they're angled in or angled out, because it increases the effective thickness of their armor, and plus there's just more shells for the for the shell to arm. There's more armor. There's more ship for the shell to arm on. That's what I meant to say.
So you have a boat. This is a
He has a
destroyer.
boat. That okay. Okay, Jingles. They say I'm bad, but geez, I
POV,
mean,
I am the Japanese determining that the Fletcher that they are fighting is a battleship. So
look, it's the Johnston.
Yeah, that was always my favorite thing of reading about like World War II history, where it's like, the Japanese, there was like 3 destroyers, 2 escort destroyers, and like 9 cargo ships. And the Japanese come back and they're like, yeah, so anyways, 15 fleet carriers are there. And they're like, okay, how many do they have? But as Mountbatten was probably just describing, when you're shooting at a destroyer like this, yes, it gives you a large amount of area to shoot at. But conversely, it is a relatively thin section of light armor. And that means, especially in World of Warships turns, that you're going to punch through. It's kind of like shooting a beer can with a 45. You're just going to go through. Yeah, it's going to be definitely unpleasant, but the shells aren't detonating. Or if they are, it's going to be like on the other side of the ship, unless they hit something substantial. But that's,
Like
again,
that
I'm trying to
with
keep
with the
this.
destroyer.
Yeah, but
That's another rabbit hole. That's another rabbit hole to go down.
when a destroyer's kind of running away after it does its torps, and it'll hit one of these. This is about what I usually shoot, and that's because yes, this is narrower than this, but at the exact opposite end of the spectrum, with how the shells are going to be impacting, there's that much more internal volume that the shell has to travel through, which means that it's probably going to arm, and it's probably going to do more damage. So stuff like that, and um, little tips and tricks, and you really want to, if you know stuff like that, like if you know how shell arming works, it allows you to kind of extrapolate kind of ideas and theories like this, and then bada bing, bada boom,
And this is
like,
like real life physics too. And I don't mean to plug it, but if you go watch
oh,
some of my gun videos, you'll see that when we shoot the sodas and stuff and put like 5 soda bottles in a row, you notice like the first 2 sodas, the bullet will just pass on through that. But then now that it's got more meat to get into and stuff, it's dumping its energy, it's displacing that momentum and stuff. Then you'll see that's when it starts to like blow the plastic apart and stuff. Now imagine you scale that up to naval artillery and actual armor and such. Then you pack a bunch of explosives in the warhead. Then you kind of get what's going on there.
well, yeah, the best way to think about it is scale.
Mm-hmm.
It's, instead of you shooting, I don't know, a 9 mil at 2 liter cokes, you're shooting a 16-inch shell at a destroyer that's, I don't know, maybe like 30 feet across, but it's also a destroyer, so it's not, the armor's not all that much there, and yeah, the shell punches through maybe external skin, fuel tank,
Yeah.
some type of unfortunate crew compartment, and then it's going to hit stuff as it goes through those compartments, but the main force that it's going to impact is going to be a lot of the bulkheads and stuff like that. And then you hit another fuel tank, and then you're out.
There's nothing
Granted,
for it to
again,
dump its energy into, or to
yeah,
trigger the warhead.
well, I mean, the warhead's triggered on impact. The problem is with the delay, it takes so much longer for it to get through armor rather than just blowing through essentially not armor.
Yeah, yeah,
When
yeah.
you're talking about a shell designed to penetrate, I don't know, 600 millimeters of steel versus 38. So it's very, very different in terms of impacts and stuff like that. Just to be clear though, because this is something that's come up a lot in naval, the shell just goes through. Due to decompression alone, everybody in that compartment is dead. I'm not gonna, again, bold controversial statements here, but a 16-inch projectile displaces a lot of air and creates a very large vacuum because it is a very large object moving very quickly. So it's gonna kill people in the compartment. Because that's the other thing where they're like, oh my goodness, there's in this movie or in this story they say 40 dead from an overpin. How did that happen? Were they all like in a conga line or something? It's like, no, there's a massive object moving through. Yeah, pressure. So,
but I mean, ships also, they had like, I think today they have like 3 crews on board. Like, by that I mean like you have like, I think
first, second, and third watches.
yeah.
Yeah.
So like, yeah, you can lose like 40 guys, but each of them has a backup, and each of them has a backup.
Well, if a ship's watches are different than battle stations. So I may have a watch. Say I'm an engineer. My watch may be in the turbine hall, but my battle station is in the forward boiler room. Unless I'm like the big turbine guy, in which case I'm back with the turbine. So yes, there's a lot more coverage and rotation on naval vessels than other potential areas, but at the exact opposite end of the spectrum, it's not like people are teleporting off the ship when their watch is over. They're still there. So, and when it comes to battle stations, everybody is somewhere. So, yeah, there's always people that could fill in the voids, but losing 40 dudes is still
not a good time.
Losing 40 dudes. So, but yeah. Now, speaking of 40 dudes, you posted a fantastic YouTube video this week.
With 40 dudes?
Well, I left a comment. It got 40 downvotes, and you didn't reply to it. So I called you fat again.
That's probably why.
So, yeah, for those of you who don't know, I came on to, was it like 3 Fridays ago? Yeah. I was like, hello, Captain Fat Nuts. And somebody was like, you are mean! Don't do that! And then you were like, oh, hey, how you doing? And the guy's like, I'm sorry. But yeah, the video that you posted this week, and just to reiterate that this isn't like a self plug. I don't watch all that much World of Warships content. If I'm on YouTube, I'm watching either naval history, air history. I've been really into planes lately. I'm actually planning on my dad and I. This might have been the hot dogs and the beers talk on the way home from the Red Sox game, where we planned a trip out to Dayton, Ohio, where they have everything that has ever flown for the Air Force.
That's the big one, yeah.
So I'd really like to go see that. So that's going to be coming up. And YouTube stupid drama, because I need something to listen to at work. Because if I listen to The End and the Death again, I'm going to blow my brains out. I have run out of audiobooks at work. By the way, hot take, audiobook should not cost the same amount as a physical book. Just putting that out there. I should not have to pay $36 for an audio file.
Your 2 megabyte MP3 file.
Yeah. So there's that. But that's another side tangent. You posted a video on a ship that is very near and dear to my heart. And I really wanted to highlight that and accentuate that. The Admiralante de Grau. Now, de Grau. Now, a lot of people are probably sitting there thinking, Mike's finally lost the plot. There's no Grau in World of Warships. He's gone. You're wrong. So this is, I honestly believe, the Type 59 of World of Warships. And for those of you who don't know, the Type 59 was a tank released into World of Tanks that essentially broke matchmaking, and they stopped selling it after like 3 days. I think that this has the capability to do that, especially at the tier that it's at with the tools in its toolbox. And the problem is nobody bought it. So we are going to go over it, right? Meow.
Oh, look at that, boys and girls, technology.
Technology. This is incredible. Only 55 minutes in.
It would have been great
So,
when you're talking about like the angles and stuff with the destroyers.
pardon?
This would have been great when you're talking about the
Oh,
angles and such with the
yeah, but
destroyers. Yeah, I
then
guess
I couldn't
we
have
had the
used
real
the
live.
model, the
It's called
destroyer.
a tax write off, ladies and gentlemen.
Honestly, yeah. See, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go out and buy 100 models and then write them all off as business expenses.
He's catching on. He's catching on.
And then I'm going to get audited by the IRS and arrested.
And you also run that risk too, yes.
But this ship is, first off, absolutely baller Aztec or Inca camouflage. I absolutely love this art style. I love the colors. I love the tiling. I love all of this. I'm a very big fan of stupid, gaudy, over-the-top camouflages, and I love this. This ship is incredibly good. And I'm going to briefly go over it because, like I said, Sea Lord has an incredible video up on it. The brow is a box standard D7 prevention. So, it has the 152s, 4 of them, 4 dual
8 of them,
turrets,
4x2.
7-second reload, 16-kilometer range, 30, millimeters of armor penetration. No armor really to kind of speak of. It has 75 and 50, very much just a light cruiser, which is fine. 37 with Joaquin. I have this. So that hit points is not indicative of the base stats. But yeah, it's a very good ship. It's a nice, comfy tier 8 cruiser, and you're probably sitting there wondering, oh, what makes it overpowered? So there's a reason this consumable is not on more ships.
I don't think it's on any other ships, is it?
It is not on any other ship, and I think that is for a very distinct reason. For those of you who are listening, for those of you who are stuck in traffic, I am going to remind you to not look at your phone when you're driving because that's bad. But I will read this out for you. We had no, don't listen to him. It's a reload booster, so minus 66% on your reload time for 30 seconds. Now, you're probably wondering, oh, Mike, I'm going to have to get a lot of hits to charge this. And it's going to be something that I'm going to have to balance. It's going to be like those South American cruisers. And you are wrong. So you fill the combat instructions by 10% every 5 seconds you are unspotted. That's it.
And it has really good concealment too.
Yeah. So you just basically ambush somebody with an Uzi, and then you go off for a minute, and you let it recharge, and then you come back and you do it again. And again.
And again.
There's no charge limit on this. There's no nothing on this. It is quite literally just a free reload booster. You also have your box standard, cruiser consumables here at tier 8. That's kind of why I don't really care. I mean, damage control party. You have cool. You have hydro. That's incredible. Defensive. Never before seen. Isn't that, it's crazy. And then I think you have deck charges, which also kind of
yes,
blows.
you do have deck. Yeah.
Yeah, so you don't have a strike, which sucks. But like Sea Lord said, 9.6 conceal, 32 knots. You have 92 rudder or air defense because you are Dutch. So you have a whole bunch of these very good Bofors. You have a whole bunch of dual 57. And your main guns can also be used in an anti-air capacity. So this is a fantastic ship. And it's going to be coming back to War Thunder World of Warships in the Um,
14.6. Next update.
yes, sir. And it's
July
isn't it
9th.
coming back on the rotation, right?
Yes, it's going to come back on the rotation with 14.6, and it's going to be for doubloons.
This is so.
So
Sorry,
like
this is something
11,000 or 13,000 doubloons, depending upon if they tag it as like uncommon or rare,
I
whatever.
I think it's going to be a common. I
Yeah,
don't
so
think they're
it
going
should be
to.
11,000.
I don't think they're going to stack an uncommon on the thing, and this thing is nutty. Um, I love this thing. I play the shit out of it. Uh, I really kind of just wanted to take a second and talk about the ship that's coming back. Uh,
We're going to talk about what's really funny about it.
what?
That little man you got on there.
The dude.
The
Were you making
dude,
fun of his hairline? Joaquin Phoenix's hairline?
Joaquin Phoenix, because he's back. You can get him in his containers again, so you can pick him up.
Oh, hell yeah. And normal survivability gives what, 300, 350?
Something like that, or 400.
And he gives 500. And he also Master and Commander talent. I didn't
Great
even
movie.
know he had this.
Oh, you didn't know
It is a
this?
good movie. I did not know this.
Dude, this is what makes it so busted.
Yeah. So you get 5% speed on top of 32 knots. So that's less than 2 knots that you're gaining, but
Well,
that's
it's not
still.
that. It's the next part.
No, I
It's
know.
what.
I'm getting there.
Okay.
This is what the kids call edging.
Oh, okay.
People see it.
I'm old.
They're
I'm almost
waiting.
30.
Yeah, I know. Me too, dude. I just turned
Yeah,
27.
but I'm 29 tomorrow. It's like I've got one last year of youth, and I'm going to turn into an old man.
Hey man, at least you still have your hair.
No, I don't. Don't make me take this hat off on camera.
I was trying to give you a little bit of an alley oop there that you could just be like, yeah, I do. But you
Don't.
kind of shot yourself there.
Well, watch. I'll blind the audience real quick. I'll unveil my secret.
Yeah, solidarity.
Just
Oh wait, oh look, I still. Oh
boom,
my goodness, and the back too. Oh my,
gone,
in
reduced
the
to
back,
atoms.
in the back too. You have a little
Mm.
land bridge on the top of your head.
It's a little bit less day by day. It's like the Bering Sea strip, not the, yeah, the Bering land bridge. It's
Yeah,
just
the land
eroding.
bridge.
The wolves are going to be stuck in North America here in a bit.
Dude, your Pangea is broken, bro.
And she is broken.
Um, this is also very cool. Minus 5% to reload, and minus 10% to torpedo, and minus 22 seconds on secondary reload time. This is not applicable to this ship, but the reload's nice, and you just have to get 175 hits with main and secondary, which basically means you exist.
You use it like twice, you get that nice 5% buff to your main battery reload time.
But as Mr. Landbridge Mountbatten pointed out, the second part here is combat instruction start progress plus 20%. So please correct me if I'm wrong. That means you start off at 20 every time it resets, right? Or is
Yeah.
it at the beginning of the game you just start, you're at 20, and then once it cycles
So
through, then you have to fully recharge it.
once you pop the F button twice, you have a permanent 20% chunk of your bar that just stays there. So you only have to earn 80% there on out from each individual F button chunk. It's a little
Yeah,
tired,
that's,
ladies and gentlemen.
as you can tell, I need my beauty sleep. But yeah, that's kind of nutty, isn't it?
Yeah,
On
so
a
it
ship
means
that
that because it takes 50 seconds to get it normally, so you take 20% of that away. So that's like
40
30,
seconds.
40, yeah, okay, 40 seconds to get your F button back. So
What do we have to do to get our F button again? Oh, exist.
just exist. Just
I'm
go
spotted.
undetected for 40 seconds. So it's so easy because like by the time you spawn, by the time you get to where you're going, you've probably popped it twice already, and you should just pop it because you.
Yeah.
What are you going to shoot in 50 seconds at the beginning
Yeah.
of the game with a cruiser? Nothing.
And you want to get to that plus 20% booster as fast as you can.
Because that's more DACA. That's more.
More DACA, less downtime, baby.
Yeah. and that's getting that 5% buff to your reload time that much faster. And then, of course, you have adrenaline rush on top of this too. So
Mhm.
when you're really rocking and rolling, like the last 5% of your health, you have like a 1.6 second reload time with the F button. It's a beautiful thing. Beautiful thing.
Do you want to go over these quick premium test ship changes,
Yeah, we can do that.
or do you want to go right into history?
Well, you feel like wrapping it up or what?
It's up to you. What's your time frame?
We can go into history and then go ahead and wrap it.
All right.
It's
So we will talk about the Osborne changes next week. So we have, as you can probably tell, I pulled up a web page because I went as white as a ghost, and it's on my main monitor, which means I'm reading it. I wanted to talk about something that is incredibly interesting in naval history this week. Now. Uh, this ship this name rather has been carried by many ships in the Soviet Navy, and the Russian Navy, and the modern day Soviet Navy. But I'm specifically talking about one of them. This is the Moskva class helicarriers. So this isn't the one that got sunk in the Black Sea, and this isn't the one in game. This was made in the 60s to support anti-submarine warfare for Soviet fleets. The 50s for the Soviet Navy were very interesting because the whole design genesis, they were still working out the Stalin era, I want a battleship, and I don't care how many humans I have to kill to get a battleship. And they were transitioning into the more Soviet Navy, where they just kind of were like, yes, straight up, we cannot compete right now with the US or a lot of the NATO navies. So we're going to build a shitload of submarines to be annoying. And during the 60s, Admiral Gorshkov came along and he was like, we have a very large economy. Why are we building what's essentially a horse? So during this time, we got a lot of Soviet naval vessels, and it was more ships that were designed to roam, and it was more fleet based. Now, with building an ocean-going navy, there comes a lot of different avenues that you can go down to protect it. Because again, just like how they had built a shitload of submarines, the U.S. Navy and a lot of the NATO Navy. So ASW is very, very high up on the Soviet kind of ladder to deal with. So to address this, there's a lot of smaller kind of corvettes built, and for larger fleet sections, they built the Moskvas. Now you're probably sitting there wondering, what is this? Is this like the LSTs that we have these days, or the landing ship where they have a large flight deck and they can deploy troops? Unfortunately, you're incorrect. This is the Soviet Navy. You have to remember that eventually, sometime during the design process, somebody has an aneurysm and loses the vision of what they're trying to build, unfortunately. So the Moskvas were, I call them half-deckers. It is a ship with a large amount of rockets and missiles forward, both ASWs and both ASW rockets and missiles, and a large flight deck after. Hold on, we have technology.
Obviously, I was just pulling it up right now for those to
Oh,
see.
damn. Did you also pull it?
Yeah, it's probably the same picture.
Yeah, it is. It is. It is. All right. Do you wanna attempt to follow along with the pictures while I narrate?
Oh no, you can do that.
Okay. Um. So, Russia built these Moskvas initially, and as you can see here, can you see my cursor?
Yeah,
Oh, perfect. Oh my goodness. I'm gonna be a history teacher to a history teacher. This is gonna be fantastic. So, right here at the front, yeah, that is an incredible zoom in that just is the same picture. Okay. So right here on the front, we have a rotary ASW rocket launcher. Now, here we have a dual arm SAM projector as well, because air defense is still very paramount. And then right here we have two ASW rocket launchers. They're relatively the same launcher. They launch different types of ASW rockets. And for those of you who don't know, are probably thinking like, how does an ASW rocket work when the submarines are under the water? Basically, these are delivery systems. The whole point of these weapons are to go to a designated area, drop a torpedo, and then that's it. The missile's done its job. And with the development with electronics and hydroacoustic elements and stuff, the torpedo can then basically kind of just get dropped in, and it will find and kill whatever is in the area that it is in. It will immediately start pinging. It will immediately start spinning up. And the other thing that a lot of people don't understand about torpedoes, even during this time frame in the 60s and 70s, is they had some pretty long run times. So it's not World War II where I have 10,000 yards of range. The torpedo just shuts off or floats and sinks. We're getting into the era of like 30 minutes of chase time, 35 minutes of chase time, even 40 minutes of chase time. And in the late 70s and mid to late 70s and 80s, we're talking about an hour plus. And I can't properly put into words how terrifying I think it would be to be a submarine and know that there is a weapon hunting you, hear the pings for an hour and a half as, you know, this thing chases you down. Because unlike a submarine, the torpedo doesn't care if you know that it's there. The torpedo is not going to try and be silent. The torpedo is going to go after you.
The
It's going
very
to
simple
find you.
way for everyone to experience this: just go download Cold Waters on Steam.
Yep.
And I
And
think
then you
there's
hear
literally a
that.
mission called "Sink the Moskva" when you're trying to kill this thing, and
But
it's rough. It's rough.
well, I mean, the other thing with cold waters is you'll just hear the ping of an active sonar, and it's kind of like hearing the warning light in your car. Immediately, like your heart drops out. You're
You're like,
immediately like, "This
oh.
is the worst case scenario. This is horrible." But you know what's happening. Because again, unlike a conventional surface ship, submarine gets hit, you're dying. If you're at death, you're dying. It's you're not getting in a raft, you're dying. You're dead. So weapons like that are very, very terrifying. They're also very, very terrifying for surface targets because again, I can have a weapon that has that longer runtime, and for instance, it will chase the I almost said autistic, the acoustic signature of the ship's power plant, for instance. Or in the Russians' case, they made a whole bunch of just massive torpedoes that were designed to detect and follow wakes. And there's stuff like that. So torpedoes and submarines were still an incredibly, incredibly imposing threat during the Cold War. So Russia felt, okay, we need to deal with threats like this. And the best way to deal with threats like this is having a lot of helicopters. But we don't have ships that can operate the number of helicopters we need. So they build this hunk of shit. So as you can see here, it has very, very large rear flight deck. They could operate like 20 of these Kamov tandem rotor helicopters. They had a lot of aircraft. Oh, also had torpedoes because
Of course.
it's a Soviet ship and needs to have every weapon known to man on it. Also a lot of the SAMs and close-in weapon systems, stuff like that. So it's a very, very heavily armed vessel. There's another shot on the rear there. But yeah, these were very, very interesting because instead of taking the U.S. Navy route of basically everything being kind of ASW, and if you have enough kind of ASWs around, you have ASW. The Soviets were like, we're just going to condense it into this. And this is something that we're just going to send out with our aircraft carriers or with whatever else we have out there. Um, and this is going to be
Aircraft
their
carrying
ASW.
cruiser, actually.
Yes, that is another thing. This is technically a cruiser. It is not an aircraft carrier. These could not operate the Yak 38s off of them. They tried that once and it fell through the deck. And they're like, this is not good. But yeah. So this is another really,
What do
really
you
good
cram
picture.
20 of those helicopters in there?
Oh, it's like this. It's like this one here. Here, does this zoom in? Nope, it just makes it.
I know they can fold the rotors and stuff, but they just
Yeah,
stack them on the deck, or they have a hangar underneath.
no, they have a hangar underneath. They have an
So
elevator right
that's an
here.
elevator that goes. Oh, okay.
Yeah, they have an elevator down here. That goes down here. They have a small flight deck or small like hangar
Small
deck and stuff
hangar.
like
Okay.
that.
Huh.
So it's very interesting, and I think that it's a novel concept to deal with a threat. But I think that it's also a massive liability because heaven forbid this gets hit.
All your eggs are in
Then
one basket.
yeah, all your eggs are in one basket. It's not like if a U.S. flotilla loses a frigate, where it's like, okay, but everything else has sea stallions on it, so we don't really care. And it's not like you have the helicopters that are on all of these naval ships, the U.S. naval ships, I should say, are all outfitted for ASW work. So it's not like you're going to be like, darn, this is the attack, the attack helicopter. No, they're all ASW. They're designed very, very distances over water, hover, drop buoys, track targets, and then engage them if necessary. Granted, and that's what these Chemovs would do too. The Chemovs were not a horrible helicopter, especially when it came to being compact. With the compound rotor here, as you can see, it's one rotor on top of another set of rotors, and they spin in opposite directions to basically offset the forces of a single rotor spinning. So they don't need a tail rotor, which is pretty cool. But yeah, they had all their eggs in one basket. And I've never been a really big kind of proponent of that. So yeah, so the armament, they had a FRAS 1 projectile carrying an 18-inch torpedo or a 10 kiloton nuclear warhead, because this was the 60s and everything is solvable.
A nuclear torpedo, a nuclear missile, or nuclear artillery show.
Mhm.
1996. Dang.
Yeah, they were both canceled in the 90s when the Soviet Navy drawed down. The funny thing with this though is they had, oh, I'm sorry, it was 14 helicopters, not 20. I might be thinking of the Minsk or the Kievs rather, the Kievs. The worst part about these ships is they had horrible seakeeping. So that rear flight deck was often either swamped or rolling at such a degree that they could not do air ops. And that was mainly because they tried to build a cruiser to basically function as an aircraft. It just did not work. So that was a big problem. And then, like I kind of alluded to there, the Soviets just kind of ended up going, all right, we underbuilt the shit out of these, and they can't go anywhere because, well, they can go places. It's just they have horrible seakeeping, so they can't do the one reason why them. So they ended up building the Kievs, and the Kievs are aircraft carrying cruisers or heavy aviation cruisers. I'm sorry.
Heavy aviation crew.
Yes, but it is Kiev, Minsk, and the Gorshkov. and um, all of these it basically kind of followed the same design concept, except instead of it being larger, somebody at the Soviet Naval Construction Bureau went, "Hey man, why don't the helicopters handle the anti-submarine work, and we just put cruise missiles on the front of this thing to deal with it, surface ships." And everybody was like, "I don't want to get shot, so that's what we'll do." So they ended up covering the front deck with sandboxes. So again, this is an aircraft carrying cruiser, by the way, but it has all of these launch boxes, sandboxes, and it also had, as you can see here, the dual 57 just for close and weapon system. They still kept the same SAM element, stuff like that. But yeah, it was kind of funny. These
really...
weren't, pardon?
Go ahead.
No, I was going to say these weren't horrible ships in terms of seakeeping and in terms of operation,
Well,
but
they're so good. India still operates one.
yeah, but they really don't,
What do you
because
mean?
that they
What you
bought the
mean?
Baku. They bought the Baku, but they
Uh-huh.
basically rebuilt it from the ground up. It is not the same ship.
No, yeah, no, it doesn't look like that anymore. But like, one's
Oh,
still chugging around. I mean, yeah,
no,
no, they rebuilt the
two
crap
are
out of
two are.
two. They bought two,
No,
or
they
did
bought
China
one.
buy one?
China bought one, and then it caught fire last year. So
Is that the one they just have like sitting in like
yes,
some
it's
harbor
sitting in a
somewhere?
pond.
Yeah, but India's
I think
still
it's
like,
I think it's actually just sitting in a pond. I think
yeah.
they were going to turn it into a casino, so they built this massive pond next to a river, and they took it in there, and then they dammed it off. And what I really think happened is China went through and tried to learn as much as they could about naval construction,
Well, yeah, because they
and
bought the what's the one carrier that Russia has? They bought her sister.
they bought a Kuznetsov.
Yeah, China did. I think they did the same thing. And then they literally built like a copy of it. Um Converted to a theme park. It's a
Let's see
luxury
here.
hotel. Hold up. I may have to go to this hotel.
Sold to 1996. Kiev was sold to Bahani Aircraft Park,
There we go.
a theme park in China. The concept was developed by World Tourism, attracted a I don't know. So here it
So
is. As you can tell, it's in. I think it's quite actually in a harbor. Like, okay, this is. Why do you link to something that doesn't exist? Um, let's see here.
luxury hotel. I'm gonna go to oh
Okay, this is. I
converted
think we might
into
have.
a hotel.
I think we might have to. I think we might have to fund an expedition here. This. Okay, so
148 room.
it's not in a harbor, but it's
Probably was this one because I think it sat for a really long time. They didn't
well
do anything with it.
the other thing is I know they converted it into a hotel, but I think that it like did not attract anybody. And then they just ended up what why is there pictures
Is
of
there limits there randomly?
I
Book
don't know.
online. Okay, we got a book a room. Look, it says book online. We got
Prices
a.
from $150. You got
That's not bad.
$150?
That's not bad. Look, I just
Let's
want to see what happens. Let's see what happens.
let's see what happens. Expedia, did it link to
Expedia.
fucking Expedia? Let's see. Let's go August. Let's go August 3rd to the 9th.
So you want
Nope.
to say 2 weeks in China?
Yeah, I don't spend 2 weeks in China. Let's see. Let's see. No, I'm not paying up front. Okay,
These
okay.
these aren't the hotel.
Wait, this isn't the what? Dude, we got gypped.
Did we get baited by the
We
article? I
got
thought it said book
gypped.
now.
Ugh, never mind. Anyways,
Let's see if I can find this
um,
site. I'm on a mission now.
so Yeah, they built these, and it's just very interesting to build like 60% of an aircraft carrier and then cover it in cruise missiles and be like, ah, yes, it's a cruiser.
Well, they had to lie to
Uh,
the Turks about that.
well, yeah, I mean, that's another thing that they did. They were just like, yeah, it's a cruiser. And then the Turks saw it for the first time. They're like, what? Because they have a rule. It's like no aircraft carriers through the Dardanelles or something. But yeah, it's a very, very interesting um ship concept. And then yeah, here's the
With the Indian one.
yeah, this is the Indian one that
Yeah.
they rebuilt. So you're not going to believe it, but they removed the cruise missiles and then they extended out the flight deck and everything. Yeah, see, like
Got a ramp now.
yeah, it's they put a ski jump on it, and then yeah, this is all stuff that I don't care about.
Ski jumps are
What?
boring.
What?
Hmm?
They have a piece of metal siding on the bottom of the helicopter. Hold
Who
on.
performs
They have,
the AEW? Oh, it's electronic warfare.
I guess so.
AEW, aerial electronic warfare.
I don't know.
Like, I mean, I guess if you strap a piece of sheet metal to your helicopter, it gives it a bigger radar signature.
And then yeah, we also have the Admiral Kuznetsov, which is the purpose-built and final, kind of straw in the Russian uh,
Naval
aircraft carrying
aviation.
cruiser thing. Yeah. Do you want to know what's really funny about this? Oh, look at him
There's lots
rolling
of funny
coal,
things about this. What was that
rolling coal.
type 2 fuel bunker B or whatever?
Yeah. Ugh. They still have cruise missiles on the deck on this thing, which is very funny to me. I think the hatches are like right here.
Yeah, yeah.
Um,
There's a picture on the Wikipedia page with the hatches open. I think the hatches are still there. I don't think it actually has cruise missiles anymore.
no, I think they put cruise missiles. I mean, they don't right now because the ship doesn't function, but it's neither here nor there. Let's see what it says. The overhaul.
The 10-year
Um,
overhaul. I think the last thing I remember reading about is like they took the crew off and said that they're going to Ukraine. So
I mean, it caught on fire like 7 times, and it had a crane fall through the deck. They're
you,
not
you can
doing too
uh
good.
you can find it on Google Earth, and they keep mentioning that the shipyard that it's at, and all the shipyard is. It's like this. It looks smaller than the shipyards down here that handle like the OSVs and stuff that go to the rigs. Lee Dry
Another,
Dock, another
another.
fire, another fire. I think the dry dock it was in sank.
That was when the crane fell on it. That was a different time it caught
Oh,
fire.
okay, different time.
Yeah, see, September 2024. Analysts analysis revealed that Kuznetsov crew of approximately 1,500 sailors were reassigned to the Russian army for combat duty in Ukraine.
Dang,
In the Navy.
you're not in the Navy anymore.
In the Navy. You're going to war in the Navy. All right, well, anyways,
I think that's it for
I
tonight.
think that's about it for tonight. I got pizza calling my name.
Yeah, I've got sleep calling mine.
You lazy person, you.
I have a training in what time is it? 8 hours.
All right, so on that bombshell, time.
It
Good night.
is time to end. Like the video, follow the
I'm gonna
podcast, subscribe to the channel.
subscribe, join our
I will
Patreon.
Patreon, non-existent Patreon.
I don't know. I'm just doing all of the YouTuber stuff
Yeah,
where they're
yeah,
just
yeah.
like, join our Patreon.
Buy our
Follow me on
merch.
Subscribe Star. Buy our
Subscribe.
merch. Follow me on Blue Sky.